Hi everybody, this little talk will be about sleep today. I want to let you all know that what I'm telling you is some things that I've learned over many years of practice, some things I've seen in a lot of patients, but as always, I want you to verify with your own family physician that anything I'm suggesting is okay for you. Anything that I suggest as a supplement, I want you to make sure with your physician that it's okay to take with any medication that you might be on. So let's talk about sleep. How many hours do you need? Well, everybody thinks that 8 is the number, and if you don't get 8, then you've not gotten enough sleep. And the fact is just that as anything else in the world, there's a spectrum here. Personally, I need 6.5 to 7. Some other people need 8 to 9. It just depends on where you fall within that spectrum, and it's important to get that amount of sleep. A lot of people come to me and they tell me, well, I don't get enough sleep. So I go over a sleep history with them and I ask them, what time do you go to bed? Well, I go to bed at 9 o'clock. What time do you get up? I get up at 4. Well, you've gotten 7 hours of sleep. And they'll say, yeah, I know, but I want to sleep till 7. And when I try and suggest that they alter their lifestyle, and maybe if you go to bed at 10, it might be a little bit better. And actually 10 is kind of an ideal time. It sets you up so that you are getting a good amount of your sleep before that cortisol peak at 4 o'clock in the morning. So 10 o'clock is a good time. Once again, the amount of sleep that you need varies, and you'll need to determine exactly how much that is. There also is an ability to oversleep. So what is that? That means that, say you wake up and you feel as though you're rested, but you look at the clock and you've decided, well, I really just kind of want to stay in bed, and you sleep 2 hours more and you feel worse than you did 2 hours prior to that. So that is oversleeping, and you will feel bad for the rest of the day. So it's really important that you get as much sleep as you need, but that you do not oversleep or get too much sleep. Another thing that a lot of people do is they take naps. So you talk to a person and they say, well, I'm only getting 6 hours of sleep at night, but I'm taking a 2-hour nap during the day. So what happens? You're getting 8 hours of sleep during that 24-hour period of time. So once again, it's important to think about how much sleep cumulatively you are getting. And the other thing that's important to realize is there are some people that are cats, and there are some people that don't need that much sleep. So once again, individualize that. So a couple of things to set yourself up for good sleep. Number 1 is don't watch TV in bed, okay? Use the bedroom and the bed specifically for sleeping. Go in there when you're ready to sleep, no more than a half an hour before, and then go to sleep. Don't go and lie in bed, put a bunch of computers and books around you, and then watch a couple of action films and then expect to get to sleep. One thing that's been well documented is blue light, or the light that you get off of the computer, overstimulates us and makes it extremely difficult to fall asleep. And why is that? The brain sees the computer screen or the TV screen as a solid image, when in actual fact it's what are called pixels, which means that the light is actually vibrating. So while the brain interpolates all these vibrations into an image, it actually sees it as these small pixels or individual lights. So it's really exciting to the brain. That's why after concussion we tell people to limit their blue light time or their computer, TV, cell phone time. So no computer, TV within about an hour of going to bed, especially the computer, and especially if it's work. If you're sitting there going over a spreadsheet and trying to do some work and thinking about there's no way you're going to be able to get to bed after that. It's going to take you a while to sort of just calm down and effervesce down. So that's one important thing. The second thing is food. Try and have at least 3 hours between your last eating or meal and the time you go to bed, because on that full stomach, it's really, really hard to get to bed. The next thing is caffeine. No caffeine, I would say 5-6 hours before you go to bed. In fact, one of the reasons I stopped caffeine was I was able to drink a triple shot espresso and go to bed, and then I realized that the caffeine wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. So once again, no caffeine before you go to bed. Alcohol. A lot of people take a drink because they think the alcohol can help them go to sleep. And while it may calm you down enough to get to sleep, what's actually going to happen is the alcohol is going to cause a little bit of a rebound, and that's what rebounding your sugar, and your sugar is going to drop. So that's why after you've been drinking heavily, you wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, go over and grab a big glass of water and eat the rest of that donut that you had the morning before, because you need water and sugar, because you're dehydrated from the alcohol and you're hypoglycemic from the alcohol. So alcohol, once again, is not going to help you get to sleep. Weed. Everybody says, well, a lot of people say, I take a couple of puffs of weed and I go to sleep. Your quality of sleep will be worse. You do not get into that deep sleep. You do not get into REM. So it is not a good supplement for you to go to sleep. That's one thing to remember. There are supplements that you can take to help you get to sleep. So one of them is magnesium, but the proper dosage of magnesium needs to be adjusted according to your system. That's because magnesium can have a deleterious effect. So milk of magnesia is made out of magnesium. So if you take too much magnesium, we know what's going to happen. Okay, so you take the proper dose of magnesium. It also is a smooth muscle relaxant and might help you if you have something like cramps or neuropathy. Valerian root. This can be made into a tea or a capsule. It smells pretty bad, doesn't taste that great. You might want to use a little bit of honey with it, but you can take it in a capsule form and see if that doesn't help you. Lavender oil is very relaxing, and there are some of what I would call them the lower oils, which means they have a calming effect and not excitatory effect. Excitatory effect would be something like eucalyptus oil or pine oil or rosemary. That's very exhilarating and wakes you up. Something like lavender or a lower oil will help you get to sleep. So you can use that, put a little bit in your palms, and it'll help you get to sleep. Tryptophan. So once again, the post-Thanksgiving dinner, everybody kind of falls asleep. Might be the alcohol, probably is a little bit of tryptophan that's in the turkey. There are a number of different foods that do have tryptophan in them. Salmon, eggs, cheeses, milk, things like that have a good amount of tryptophan in them. So these are good supplements. That's probably why that glass of warm milk before you go to bed helps you get to bed. So now that you're getting ready to go to bed, let's talk a little bit about what your sleep pattern is and what your ritual is before you go to bed. So you get yourself ready. The room shouldn't be too hot, because if it's too hot, you're not going to be able to get to sleep. This would be akin to the movies you see where it's a hot, sultry night in the south and they have the mosquito nets on and everybody's just kind of tossing and turning. So if the room's too hot, it's going to be difficult for you to get to sleep. The next thing is, what kind of bed do you have? How old is your bed? Remember, you spend up to a third of your life on your bed. So it's important that you have a good bed and that you go ahead and you make sure that the padding is good and it's good for you. How old is your pillow? Pillows are extremely important for your head lift and your tilt, and it's going to help you get to sleep. It helps keep your airway up and open. So it's important to make sure that these are good. Some things that might prevent you from getting to sleep are a partner who snores a lot. That's something that needs to be worked out. If you snore a lot, then you might need an evaluation for sleep apnea or a little bit of disruption in the posterior pharynx, or maybe even a little bit of a septal deviation. So that would be a medical reason that would cause you from sleeping well. So once you're trying to get to sleep, the question becomes, do you have trouble getting to sleep, or do you have trouble staying asleep? In Chinese medicine, in my acupuncture practice, if you have trouble getting to sleep, that's considered to be a difficulty on what's called the heart meridian, or in the heart. So it means that there's something troubling you, some sort of power or struggle issue that's preventing you from getting to sleep. So a good acupuncture point for that is right along here. If you feel at the base of the thumb, base of the hand rather, on the outside or pinky finger base, there's a little bone. It's called the hamate down on there, and right at the base of it, if you start rubbing that, that's called spirit gate. And so it'll help relieve your spirit a little bit. You start rubbing that area. You do the same thing on the other side. And you rub it in a little clockwise circular motion. And just see if it doesn't help start to relieve things a little bit. The other point we talked about before is called yin tong, which is right here between the eyebrows. It's the third eye. And once again, you can rub that. If you're into crystals, you can use something like aventurine, which helps you realize gratitude for everything that you have in your life. So you can go ahead and put it right there. If you're having a really hard time, if you're really disrupted and your spirit really feels bad, the other thing you can do is you can go to what's called the master point, which is down here in the chest, and it's at the base of the xiphoid, or the little portion of your breastbone that you can feel extends down. Something like a little bit of obsidian, black obsidian, there to sort of absorb any negative type of energy that you may be experiencing might also be helpful. So let's say you have no trouble getting to sleep, but you're waking up every morning from 2 to 4, which is probably, I would say, 95% of my patients tell me they wake up 2 to 4. In Chinese medicine, this is considered to be the liver time. It is the planning time. Your liver is your architect, according to a Chinese theory. So that means that you're waking up because you're thinking about the day to come. You're thinking about planning about what's going on. You're thinking about what you need to do the following day. And frequently when you wake up at that time, it's extremely hard to get back to sleep. So a couple of points you can use for that. If you feel down on the rib cage, down, if you go from the nipple line down, and you feel on the rib cage right along through in here, you'll find a little notch. There's like a little notch in the ribs. And you can rub that area around. And that is on the liver meridian. Okay, so that'll help open that up a little bit. And then the next thing you would do is you would come to an area called lung 2, which is up in here. If you feel right where the clavicle comes into the shoulder, there's a little point, you drop down, and you'll feel a little, almost like a little hole in the muscle, and you can rub that area there. So I would do those two sequentially. I do the liver point first, and then do the lung point up in here. And this is in the middle of the night. So you would rub them like that for a period of time. Okay. Let's say you try that, it doesn't work. I'm actually getting a little sleepy right now. Let's say that it doesn't work. So there's a couple of other strategies you can use. One of them is a breathing technique. So if you look at my hands, I put my hands together, and then I put my two tips of my thumbs together, but the knuckle, not the knuckles, but the interphalangeal joint right here is a little bit separated. So you take and you put your mouth up to it, and you blow into it like you're blowing into a whistle. And then you inhale through your mouth. You exhale. And you inhale. And I do that for at least 5 breaths. And what you want to do by putting your thumbs together, like you want to constrict the breath. And what that does is that decreases the outflow and the inflow, and actually increases your CO2 a little bit, and it should help you get back to sleep. So the last thing are something called froggies, and it would seem to be somewhat counterintuitive, but they actually do help you get to sleep. So what you do is you put your heels up like this, and you touch them together, and now you drop down and put your hands down. And now for some of us this might be difficult, okay? So you can modify it by doing it, let's say up here. But the true froggy is like this, where you look and you inhale up and you exhale down. You inhale up and you exhale down. Inhale up, exhale down. Try to do about 10 to 13 of those. And what you'll find is that you do that, you get back into bed, and it should help you get to sleep. So these are some things to help you get to sleep. I do see some sleep disorders in my practice, and I do refer them out, especially if you have something like, once again, like sleep apnea. If you are having trouble sleeping, I do recommend that you get an evaluation by your MD. And I think that a lot of times Western medicine doesn't have a solution for that other than a pill. I absolutely do not recommend any of the sleeping aids on a long-term basis. It's been well shown that they affect your cognitive function as you get older. So what does that mean? You tend to drop off a little bit in your mental capability because, once again, you're using something to suppress your natural sleep mechanism. I do not recommend melatonin other than for episodic use. The reason is that if you take melatonin, it helps you get to sleep, sure. But you are now suppressing your body's normal production of melatonin, and it affects you in a physiological fashion so that you are no longer producing the melatonin that you need. So I don't recommend it other than for episodic use. I do recommend it for travel sleep and trying to readjust to a new time zone. So I think it's exceptional for that use. So I do recommend it for that. But other than that, I really wouldn't recommend it. Sleep is a very difficult subject for a lot of people. I do treat a number of people for sleep. And in fact, once we sort of get your body flowing right, one of the first things that comes back is your appetite and your sleep. Because we're trying, once again, to get this wonderful machine that we have to function in a normal capacity. And if you think about it, animals don't need to go to the drugstore to get a sleep aid, right? They just are in their natural environment and they let their body flow. Our sleep patterns are obstructed by caffeine and our lifestyle. And our lifestyle means that little widget in our mind is always going and running. So how do you turn that off? Exercise, meditation, positive affirmations, and just being content and happy with yourself and feeling self-realized. Easier said than done, once again, but it is a process. And once you embark on this process to try and discover the natural means for you to get to sleep, you will discover that it's much better than a lot of solutions currently being presented. So a few tips for you to help you either get to sleep or to stay asleep. As always, I'm always available. My website is dracupuncture.com. Information about me there. I wish you all a good night's sleep. God bless. Goodbye.